Apple's M1 Mac Mini has been completely changing the personal computing game since it was released a couple of months back. At just $699, it offers the absolute best bang for the buck that you can get if you want a Mac machine, or maybe even better than a DIY Windows PC. Now that might sound a bit unrealistic, but I'll explain my reasoning in just a minute. In this long-term review, I want to discuss the major benefits as well as the issues with the M1 Mac Mini because it's definitely not perfect. And at the end, I'm going to discuss who shouldn't buy the M1 Mac Mini and why. But first, let me give you a quick rundown on this machine and why I think there is so much value in it. The design is very sleek and compact compared to most computers out there, with a premium aluminum finish. Around back, you get some ports including 2 Thunderbolt ports, 2 USB-A, HDMI 2.0, Ethernet, and of course a headphone jack. The entire system is cooled by just one fan, but because of the extremely efficient Apple M1 chip, it never runs loud enough to hear it, even while running performance tasks. The reason for that is because this chip is the first of its kind. While most traditional computer chips are built on the x86 architecture, this one is built on Apple's ARM-based architecture that they've been working on for years now. It's basically a souped-up iPhone or iPad chip, but with added components that help make it a fully capable computer like the I/O chip, the Thunderbolt controllers, and more. And because it shares the same core architecture as an iPhone, it can actually run your favorite iPhone apps, which wasn't possible before. Mac apps run great as well, even ones that haven't been updated for these new chips. And in our experience, this M1 Mac Mini feels more snappy than our $15,000 Mac Pro for day-to-day work. For example, some apps like Audacity and Photoshop open around twice as fast on the Mini, which was completely unexpected. And if you're wondering how that's possible, it's because Apple's M1 chip has an incredibly high single-core score. In fact, the highest out of any Mac ever. But it's not just single core. The multi-core performance is also incredibly high, outperforming the absolute best chip in the previous Intel Mac Mini. So as you can tell, the value is definitely there, but the even more impressive part is the performance of Apple's built-in 8-core graphics chip. It absolutely destroys the previous best graphics performance in the Intel Mac Mini, being over 4 times as fast. And that's because the Mac Mini is way too small and compact to be able to fit a dedicated graphics card or chip. So Mac Minis have always suffered in terms of graphics performance. But now that problem is solved thanks to Apple's new M1 chip, and the performance we're getting is very similar to the base 5300M graphics in the 16-inch MacBook Pro, which is really impressive for integrated graphics. So with the combination of a premium and compact design, the very reliable macOS software, and very impressive performance, you're truly getting a lot of value for $700. And because of that, I want to focus a lot of this review comparing the value aspect to other machines in its price range. Let's just say you have a parent or a relative who needs a basic computer to browse the web, do some business or school-related work, or anything like that. I strongly believe that the M1 Mac Mini is the absolute best choice. A similarly priced Intel NUC is going to have much lower performance, just like Intel's Mac Mini. A pre-built PC like this one, for a similar price, is first of all very large, the fans are gonna run loud, and it's gonna run much slower. So compared to those pre-built machines, the M1 Mac Mini is a far better deal, so I took it to the next level. A few months back, we made a video where we built a custom gaming PC with the goal of it being the best budget gaming PC. Right now, the components for the build come out to over $700 in total, more than the M1 Mac Mini. But keep in mind that we had to spend a few hours building it, troubleshooting, and setting it up. The Ryzen 3100 CPU is known as one of the best bang for the buck processors, but the M1 chip is still around 37% faster in terms of the Cinebench R23 stress test. The RX 560 graphics card is actually weaker than the M1's graphics in terms of GFX bench, so the Mac Mini is still more powerful in every way. And those are actually some of the best value budget components that we can find right now. We even had to cheap out on basically everything else like the case, the motherboard, the power supply, and the SSD to get the price anywhere near the M1 Mac Mini. And that's even without paying for a Windows 10 license, while the Mac obviously gets macOS for free. So as you can see, basically every Windows system that you can get right now is a much worse value than the M1 Mac Mini. But besides that, this Mac is a whole lot more reliable because Apple controls both the software and the hardware, so it works extremely well together and gives you incredible reliability. With Windows machines, you usually have a bunch of different third-party components working together, and those parts are much more likely to go bad and have software issues with different drivers and things like that. But on the other hand, the Mac Mini is very similar to a PC, since you can pick and choose the mouse, the keyboard, and the display that you use with it. And having the freedom to choose whatever component you want can really help bring the price down if you're on a budget. So based on everything that I discussed, the M1 Mac Mini ultimately gives you excellent performance and reliability for the price, making it, in my opinion, the new standard for a personal desktop computer. However, while it is great, it's definitely not perfect. So let's get into some of the issues that we experience with it. The biggest issue is a lack of ports, with the M1 Mac Mini only offering 2 Thunderbolt ports instead of the previous maximum of 4. So this means that if you're using a display that uses Thunderbolt, like we do here in the office, you only have 1 Thunderbolt port left. And because the M1 Mac Mini doesn't have an option for a 10 gigabit Ethernet port, we had to use the other Thunderbolt port for our RAID storage server. Now for most people, this isn't a big deal at all because a lot of people use HDMI displays, leaving the 2 Thunderbolt ports left over, and most people don't use server storage as well. Those ports are mostly just for accessories, so it's totally fine since you also have 2 extra USB-A ports as well. But for that one person who really needs more than 2 Thunderbolt ports, we found the perfect solution to the problem. OWC's new Thunderbolt hub literally turns 1 Thunderbolt port into 3, and then adds an extra USB-A port for $150. So while that isn't cheap, it's the only way to get extra full-speed Thunderbolt ports. This can also help fix the problem of limited displays, with the M1 chip only being able to support 2 displays total. If you're someone who really needs more than 2 displays, there are many people out there who have been connecting up to 6 displays to M1 Macs using hardware adapters and special software with really good results, so that's great to hear. One of the issues we've been experiencing is Bluetooth connection problems, but we've really only noticed it with third-party accessories. We used our M1 Mac Mini with Apple's Magic Mouse and had basically no issues. But now, Apple has just released an update that improves Bluetooth reliability, and users are reporting that the issues seem to be finally fixed, with one user going 2 days without a disconnect. Now, another one of the problems that people had was with video editing. People reported that the encoding quality was worse on M1 Macs compared to previous Intel Macs, but we ended up doing some in-depth testing and found that the M1s encode better than Apple's Mac Pro, which basically shows that it's just fine, so there are no issues there. Another problem we had was with certain plugins not being supported on Apple Silicon Macs, like mCallouts, which we use in a lot of our videos. As of right now, most plugins have been updated to support Apple Silicon, but there are still some plugins that are outdated. But thankfully, we found a solution on the mCallouts FAQ section. You can run a script for either Final Cut Pro or Motion, which will force it to run using Rosetta, thus allowing those plugins to run again. And the performance under Rosetta is still very fast. So those were the main issues that we've been experiencing, and a lot of them have either been fixed or have easy solutions to them. And most of them don't even matter to the average consumer who just needs a reliable computer. And now if you combine the performance, the efficiency, and the reliability, you're truly getting a ton of value for the cash, especially compared to other desktop Windows PCs that you can get right now. And because of all of that, I've got to say that the M1 Mac Mini is by far the best computer to buy for someone looking for a budget PC right now. But with all of that said, there are actually still some people who should not buy an M1 Mac Mini, so let's get into that. If this M1 seems a bit limiting in terms of the performance or anything else, we are expecting Apple to release a more powerful M1X Mac Mini in the future, potentially even later this year, so keep that in mind. On top of that, we're already expecting a new iMac coming out within the next few months. So if you don't already have a keyboard, a mouse, and a display on hand, the iMac will be a better value if you want a high quality display. But if the performance of the M1 is enough for you, then I would totally just buy the M1 Mac Mini right now and enjoy a reliable value computer for the next 5+ years. So there you guys go. Hopefully you enjoyed this review, and if you did, go ahead and tap the like button and click the circle above to subscribe for more videos like this one. Definitely check out one of those 2 videos right over there. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.